Good day, my name is Bluesuit and today I'll be going over my review of the Lovecraftian dark horror 90s inspired fast-paced 2.5D action FPS known as Forgive Me Father. In Forgive Me Father, you play as one of two playable characters as you blast your way through city streets, rotten sewers, and undead cornfields in your search for your lost cousin. What really sets this shooter apart from every other is the enormous focus there is on the action, which can definitely be felt in the storytelling. There are only a handful of voice-acted, skippable cutscenes in the game, and all the lore surrounding the town of Pestisville is entirely optional, so if you want to, you can ignore it all and just keep blasting enemies. Each piece of story found is clearly labeled for you, so you don't even need to check every little nook and cranny to find it either. These story chunks match the creepiness of the game's overall atmosphere for players who stop to smell the roses, but serve to help build the game world more and generally don't even connect back to the main plot. When the game begins, you have either the priest or the journalist to choose to play as. Both skill trees contain all the same weapon skills from the game's rather sizable arsenal, but each character has a few unique skills that do mildly set them apart from one another. The priest, for example, has more defensive abilities like self-healing and invulnerability, while a journalist has more offensive abilities like slowing down time, doing AoE damage, or buffing her melee attack to do more damage and steal health from enemies. Ultimately, I would have liked to have seen more differences between the two playable characters, as probably 75% of their overall skill trees are identical. That being said, after playing both classes for a while, I decided to go with the journalist as her tree has quicker access to ammo capacity upgrades, and running out of ammo is definitely a threat after the game's first act. After the game begins, Forgive Me Father is uncharacteristically slow paced considering how much it ramps up later on. Your active skills and weapon types are slowly introduced to you one by one, and it's not until you start to find weapons that you really enjoy that the game's fun factor really opens up. As I mentioned before, here there is an enormous focus on the action, and Forgive Me Father prides itself on how you never have to stop running and gunning. In fact, sprinting is the only speed that your character knows, you can't aim down your sights, and reloading doesn't exist. So you're able to keep moving to dodge enemy attacks and fire non-stop as long as you have the bullets, a commodity that grows much scarcer on harder difficulties. The skill tree will allow you to carry more ammo, however, as well as upgrade all of your weapons. These upgrades help to make each playthrough unique, as nearly every weapon has a couple different paths to take. The shotgun, for example, can upgrade into more damage and player health, or into a cursed shotgun that fires bouncy bullets, or the machine gun, which has an option to upgrade into a devastating and accurate laser beam that uses a rarer ammunition. Accuracy doesn't seem to be too much of an issue though, as enemy hitboxes are pretty generous, making it easier to make quick reactionary headshots in those clutch moments. On the bottom half of the skill tree are your character abilities. Each one starts off rather weak, so I had initially ignored them, but once you level them up they become extremely powerful. My favorite of these abilities slows down time for your enemies while you run free. The max upgrade for this skill can slow down fights enough to let you run around and kill every enemy before they even get a chance to hurt you. It definitely feels broken on normal difficulty, but there are far more skills than you'll be able to unlock in a single playthrough, so choose wisely. It does seem like you can replay levels to gain more and more experience, but this mechanic doesn't seem to work right, as jumping around different levels doesn't retain the experience that you've earned. In fact, taking my higher level journalist into the game's recently added endless mode reset her level to 0, and I was forced to load an old file to save her. I definitely hope to see these save file issues fixed in the future, as having one character with a fully unlocked skill tree would be a really fun way to take on the game's harder difficulties. Adding to the intensity of Forgive Me Father's run and gun formula is the madness mechanic. As you damage and kill enemies, your madness meter will grow, causing your vision to be distorted as all color except blood fades from the screen. This madness will cause your character to take less damage, deal more damage, and charge your abilities, rewarding highly aggressive playstyles. Especially when it comes to charging your abilities, this is a really satisfying mechanic, as you can activate an ability, then use its power to kill enough enemies to cast another ability. There are cooldowns and lengthy cast times to prevent you from really going overboard, but once you get some levels under your belt, it isn't hard to start feeling very powerful. That being said, there are still definitely some fights in Forgive Me Father that will check you hard, and even one that I couldn't even get past on normal difficulty. The last thing that I really want to talk about is Forgive Me Father's level design. Each one follows the same general format where you're searching the level for colored keys so that you can open up the corresponding doors and progress the level. Every stage has a different theme, and the cast of enemies even slowly grows, with new enemy types being introduced on nearly every one. These enemies, along with the great sound design of these levels, made them all feel really intense. When you're poking your head around corners, you can hear a pin drop. And then when something jumps out or enemies are chasing you, there's this great metal soundtrack that kicks in to match the pulse of the game. These levels are usually only about 5 to 10 minutes long, but after each one I felt like I was tense and holding my breath the whole time. You can pick up Forgive Me Father right now on Steam for 20 bucks, but honestly that's just a little high. As a non-stop white-knuckle action shooter with satisfying gunplay, a deep rewarding skill tree, and fantastic visuals and sound, that being said, there are still some technical kinks to work out, there isn't any multiplayer whatsoever, and completing the story will only run you about a dozen hours. So I'm valuing Forgive Me Father at $17, and I highly recommend it to fans of games like the OG Doom and Duke Nukem series who are into a Lovecraftian horror with a solid skill tree. I hope you enjoyed this review of Forgive Me Father. Come see me on Twitch where you can watch our reviews in progress. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Until next time.